Hey, welcome to another episode of The Rob Report. I'm your host, Robert Bob TV Brown. Before we get into this segment, by the end of this video, I want you to do a few things for me. First of all, if you like the video, hit the like button. Please do. If you don't like it, hit unlike. It's okay. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Sometimes, as Jimmy Dore would say, you find yourself unsubscribed and you need to make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell right next to it so you can be notified when a new video is being dropped. Whoop, there it is. And more importantly, the super chat will be on for this segment. So if you want to donate toward the efforts of Bob TV, that's freely up to you. Any amount will help toward the growth of this channel. My name is Robert Brown with The Rob Report. Let's get into it. There was an incident in Tacoma, Washington, of a cop running over somebody again. Man said he was hit by a Tacoma police car and claims he was left traumatized. A man who claims he was struck by a police cruiser in Tacoma, Washington, an incident that sparked a weekend protest, said he will recover from his injuries, but emotionally and mentally, I'm forever scared. About 150 people gathered in downtown Tacoma on Sunday to protest the city's police department after an officer drove into the crowd. They drove into that crowd Saturday night. Police Public Information Officer Wendy Haddell told CNN. Now let me repeat that. About 150 people gathered in downtown Tacoma on Sunday to protest the city's police department after an officer drove into the crowd Saturday night. This happened too many times. You officers think just because you're a police officer, if you don't move, we can run over you. No. Let me finish the story. 2 people were taken to the hospital following the incident, according to the Pierce County Force Investigation Team, which is now leading the investigation. None of the injuries are believed to be life-threatening, and at least one person has since been released. Tavon Williams of nearby Spanaway said he was among the injured. Williams told CNN on Monday that the incident left both of his legs bruised and covered in lacerations. And he has cuts and bruises on his feet, neck, elbow, and head. Williams said he was hospitalized overnight and released Sunday. Wow, that was quick. The people that were out there, they weren't harming anybody. And for the police to come to actually harm people and then leave, I feel so violated. And I just wanted my justice, he said. Adding that he was not part of a group that he had been striking he has not been part of the group that has been striking the officer car on Saturday before it drove through the crowd. CNN has reached out to PC Fit and the Tacoma mayor office for comments on Williams' account. The mayor's office directed CNN and PC Fit. Tacoma police identified Khan Fan as a patrol officer involved in Saturday's incident. The 58-year-old has been a member of the Tacoma Police Department for nearly 30 years, police said. He was placed on paid administration leave. Here we go with that bullcrap again. Per department policy on the evening of January 23, immediately following the incident, police said in a statement. The officer drove through the crowd after he was surrounded, police said. So what that has anything? Okay, so the people surrounding your car, do that mean they're going to harm you? Do that mean they're going to beat you up? And do that give you the right to just plow through them because they surround your car? It's not your car, number one. They're the taxpayers. It's their car. The gas in the car belongs to them. That CB you're talking on belongs to them. They the one gave you that job. So just because you're in the car, it's just like I was telling AOC that, yeah, you might have somebody in the House and Senate. You shouldn't bring a gun into the House and Senate. That's against the law, and you should be fired. You should be removed. You shouldn't even be senator. But you got to understand that they're not, that just because they had a gun don't mean they were coming to assassinate you. Unless you knew or you were already told that they had planned on assassinating you. You're only assuming. Some of them people figure, look, if y'all can't protect me, I got to protect myself. And you know some of these people are pro-guns. So if you're not going to protect me, I'll protect myself. Still wrong. But we don't know the motive why this guy brought the gun. Some of the protesters Sunday night blocked streets with signs and traffic cones near where the incident occurred, police said. Others overturned trash cans and lit the contents on fire, while a few smashed windows of cars and buildings. Officials are still working to assess the damage, Howdell said in an email to CNN. According to Howdell, employees of Southside 911 Records had to be evacuated from the building after the windows were broken out. No arrests were made during the protest, but 2 people were arrested leading up to it, Howdell said. Along with other police units, the officers was responding to reports of the incident at the intersection of South 9 and Pacific Avenue about 6:20 p.m. on Saturday, a press release from the police said. Once on the scene, the officer found a number of vehicles and approximately 100 people blocking the intersection, which they began to clear for the safety of those gathered and people trying to use the street to release, the release said. As the officers worked to clear the street, the crowd formed around the officer vehicle and began to pound the windows. He was afraid they would break his glass, she said, prompting him to speed away from the scene, the New Tribune reported. Lights and sirens were activated as the crowd continued to surround the vehicle, the release said. The officers inside the SUV trying to back up, but according to the release, was not able to because of the crowd. Fear for his safety, the release said, is the reason why he did this. The officer drove forward, striking one individual and may have impacted others while trying to get out of the unsafe position. Once the officer was at the point of safety, he called for medical aid, the release said. The News Tribune reported one person sustained laceration in a collision and was transported to a local hospital. Okay, so understand this, guys. You have a right to protest. Usually you have to go get a warrant or paperwork done to do an official peaceful protest. Now, if you're protesting because of you're angry, understand this. You can't just go out and protest. That if you go out and protest any kind of way, there is going to be repercussions. You have to be very organized in protest, and a lot of these protesters are not organized. It's just a bunch of people fed up going out there and showing their anger. And blocking the street is an effective way to protest. But understand, you blocking the streets, make sure that those who really need to get through find another way to get through. Like people who are injured, people who need to go to the hospital, people who may be pregnant, people who may, give them an alternate route to go through. When you do protest, you have to be more organized. You have a right to protest. You have a right to be mad. You don't have a right to bash out stuff. You don't have the right to break in the window. You don't have a right to light stuff on fire. And you really don't have a right to surround a police car. But that doesn't give that police the right to run you over. That police have to do certain things, turn on a siren, at least make an announcement that that you're going to be prosecuted. They got cameras in front of the car. They know who's around the car. The police officer have a webcam. He can see who's around the car. Honestly speaking, I don't know what you do in that situation, because you could easily fault the cop. Of course, you can do that. And you can easily fault the individuals in the area. You can say it's your fault that you got ran over. It's the cop's fault, and it's your fault that you got ran over. I hear a lot of people talk like that. It's your fault. Well, you don't have to run people over. You could call for backup. You can find ways to get through the crowds like that. You got people that are ticked off and mad. It's not you personally that they're attacking. And they do have a right to protest, but protesting has to be done smart and intelligently. Now, running somebody over should be a crime. You can't say it was self-defense because nobody was harming you at that time, bruh. You can't holler self-defense. You can't holler self-defense. Nobody was harming you at that time. So let's just get that out your head. Now, if they were busting out your window and trying to strangle you, that's self-defense. But they just was surrounding the car. You just couldn't move. That's all. And it kind of freaked you out. That doesn't mean you were threatened. They may have been beating on your car, but that doesn't mean you were threatened. Now, the moment they bust out your window and try to come get you, you have a right to defend yourself. And I believe you should operate in that right. But you don't have a right to go out here and run people over and using it as an excuse. Because that's what some of you guys do. Let me switch this camera over. That's what some of you guys do. You're using any excuse to run somebody over. Any excuse to run somebody over. And you shouldn't be allowed to do that. You should not be allowed to use any excuse to run somebody over. Guys, hang in there with me. Hang in there with me. Having some technical difficulties here. But we'll be right back on track. Okay. All right. So this is my Logitech Brio. Now, this is my baby. I love this camera too. All right. The other one, the battery is going dead. Somehow it keeps shutting off. And I'm still learning that on camera. But it's the one that my brother gave me. And it's nice. It's beautiful. And I'm going to get used to it. I'm going to get used to it. I'm going to get it down pack. And it's going to be my main camera. So the moral of the story is you have a right to protest. And if you're going to protest, make sure you try to find a proper way to protest. And make sure you have alternate routes for people who, if you're going to shut a certain street down, make sure there's an alternate route for people who prayed in it or, emergencies and things like that so they can get to where they need to go, because you don't want nobody dying. Nobody have to die when they're trying to go to a hospital, somebody have a heart attack because you're upset and you want to protest. Get an alternate route for those people to go through. I understand you're angry. I understand you want to show how angry you are. I'm not for you busting out windows. That's why the Boogaloo boys going around talking about they escorting BLM. You're not escorting BLM. Most of you not. Maybe a few of you are, because everybody's not the same in the organization. But remember what I said. Association is everything. You're associating with bigots, people are going to see you as a bigot. You may not be a bigot, but you're in a bigot organization. So you could be the few people that are escorting Black Lives Matter, but most of the Boogaloo boys and the Proud Boys, you're not escorting Black Lives Matter. You're trying to make sure Black Matters don't go overboard with their protests. And you're looking for a reason to do like that young boy did, shoot two of them if they got out of hand. Because you're there to protect property. You're not there to protect people. So again, lastly, and I'll finish with this particular story, the officers shouldn't have ran over nobody. If his life wasn't threatened, leave it alone. So what? They surround your car. No, still no reason to run them over. Did they threaten you? Did they bust the one out? Did they grab you and try to drag you out? No. Yeah, they hit your car. They shouldn't have been doing that. Each one of them hit your car. You have a right to prosecute each one of them, but you got to put yourself in a position where you're not going to make things worse. And what you did was make things worse. Now, honestly speaking, for people who decide to take measures in their hand and make things worse, they don't need to be suspended. They need to be fired until they can have some kind of case and prove that the officer was in the right. And it has to be independent. It cannot be done within the system. Fired. Prosecuted to the fullest extent to the law, especially if that person dies. Because if the person is beating on the car, decide to drag you out, and somehow, some way you got hurt or you end up being killed, they're going to prosecute them to the fullest extent to the law. But what about you who fear your life, that you assume that they're going to kill you when they probably wasn't? They just probably was upset. I'm not going to sit there and say they was or wasn't. But you decide to floor it and run a couple of people over and they die or they hurt. They don't have a right to come after you for that just because you wore a badge. Get out of here. You should be fired till further notice and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. You should have a trial. Now, if it's proven that you were in your right in defending yourself, then you should be let go and you should get your job back. But in a case like that, it's going to be hard to prove, because just because somebody's surrounding your car don't mean they're going to kill you. Doesn't even mean that they're going to harm you. Most people have common sense. They're not going to mess with an officer. But they sure will block that officer from doing his job. Why? Because it's a freaking protest. And the only way I can really get my message across is to really shut stuff down. I'm not going to be a fool and go storm the Capitol. But I ain't letting no cars come through the street. I'm shutting it down. Now, again, protesters, and I'm going to go off this one. If you protest without an order to protest, you still got to do it smart. Still got to do it intellectually. You got to tell people, look, we ain't busting out no windows, no cars. And if you see somebody about to do that, you let us know about that. See, a lot of people that were busting out in windows and cars during the George Floyd, they wasn't affiliated with Black Lives Matter. A lot of them probably was Antifa. A lot of them probably was anarchist organizations. A lot of them could have been white supremacy organizations. I have no clue. But most people are not affiliated with those organizations, and most people are protesting because they want change. And as Martin Luther King says, riots and all that are the cries. Just saying, I had it. I don't endorse it. I endorse love, but I understand where they're coming from. They're crying out to you. When you see people do that, they're crying out to you now. We got some people who just want to start stuff. Most people are not those people. So on this one, police should have never ran over anybody. There's no excuse for you running over people if your life is not truly threatened. Surrounding your car doesn't mean they're threatening your life. Being on the car don't mean they're threatening your life. Now, busting your window and trying to drag you out, that's when you have a right to protect yourself. Until then, just sit tight. Just say, hey, guys, look, I get it. Do your thing. And let them do their thing. And just radio your people to come get you. Most of these people ain't trying to bother you.